Hi, my name is Vishnu Das, and today I want to talk to you about Ayurvedic herbal energetics. In Ayurveda, we select herbs in formulas based on several principles. One of them is Ashtavidhavirya, or an eightfold energetics, and that can help us to determine whether or not an herb is hot or cold, heavy or light, moistening or drying, or quick or slow in its action. And Ashtavidhavirya is just one facet of how we look at herbal energetics and what herbs we're combining together for a particular individual and a pathology, or sometimes multiple pathologies. Ashtavidhavirya is further influenced by Shadrasa. Shadrasa considers the taste of a substance. Is it sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, or astringent? And that can also have a significant effect on the body and the mind. Certain herbs have affinities based on their flavors. Okay, and then we want to consider the direction an herb has. Some herbs are light and tend to move upward. Some are dynamic in their action. Many carminative herbs have aromatic qualities that refresh the senses and can move upward, yet can be combined with heavier substances, such as certain minerals, like clays or the ashes of certain shells, or they may just have laxative properties that move downward, like haritaki. There's a lot to consider when it comes to the direction that an herb may have. We have subtle properties, prabhava, which are properties that are seen and have been seen sometimes for even thousands of years, an herb having a particular affinity, but it's not so easily explained by the science of herbal energetics and pharmacology in Ayurveda, or even from a Western perspective, using modern science, chemistry, and so on, phytochemistry. So herbs can be explained that way, and sometimes they're mysterious, and they just have specific properties that have been seen anecdotally, and that's what is referred to as prabhava, those subtle or special properties. And then we have the properties and indications that an herb has that is seen over time. This guides a lot of folk medicine. People understanding that these herbs are good for certain conditions, and that knowledge has been passed down, even how to use them and combine them with other herbs for said condition. So properties and indications alone aren't what we're using to guide whether or not we're going to use a substance, but it might be something we can hang our hat on quickly. Like we know hawthornberry has an affinity to the heart. It can be used for different types of maladies of the heart, including hypertension, but it is also sour. It's also heating. And so it may be appropriate, but it may need to be balanced with other substances that have maybe more of a cooling action, depending. Maybe a sweeter action, depending. So we want to consider all of these various facets of Ayurvedic herbal energetics. So again, we have its action, its virya, hot, cold, and so on. Its taste, sweet, sour, salty, and etc., as well as its properties, indications, and its directions and subtle energetic effects it can have on the system. So when we have all of this in mind, we don't want to just simply think that because an herb is hot, like ashwagandha, that it's not appropriate for someone who's a pitta prakriti or pitta predominant individual. It depends on how they're compounded. It depends on what's happening in that particular individual, and whether or not the herb's appropriate. If an herb is spicy, it may still have a sweet effect like cinnamon or cardamom, whereas cayenne is pungent but very dry and hot, right? So there's varying degrees of heating and cooling that can guide us as well. So one last little thought that I'll leave you with is that we don't really want to throw out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to whether an herb is hot or cold. We can have juniper berries, which are hot but diuretic, and then we can have something like dandelion leaf, which is cold and diuretic. And that can certainly influence us. And so, but it's not the entirety of it. We want to consider all aspects, not just the person's constitution, not just their imbalance, but all of it, in light of its energies, the direction of the herbs, its properties and indications, its flavors, and so on. And once we marry 5, 6, 7, 8 herbs into a formula skillfully, then rather than that formula being one particular herb, it's a host of herbs working together synergistically. And that's the key. So if somebody says, well, you know, you've used a particular substance like ginger in a formula that's used to treat pitta dosha or calm pitta dosha within the GI tract, but then you'd have to say, well, what other herbs are in the formula? Like Nushot is in Avipatakar Churna, it's bitter, it's cold, there's sweet substance, even some sugar in Avipatakar Churna, and also hot herbs like ginger, black pepper, and pipali to protect the quality of the digestive fire. Yet the sum total of the formula is really to cool pitta down and move it outward, but still protect the digestive energy. And so that's how we can see this at play. Turmeric has properties that are anti-inflammatory, but it's not the entirety of its properties and indications, because turmeric is used for a wide array of different conditions in Ayurveda. But the interesting thing is that turmeric is a heating energy. It can pacify pitta, but it can also have a tendency to provoke pitta depending on how it's being used and how often, what strength, and so on. So I hope that helps. There'll be more on the subject in various ways as we go. So enjoy. Have a good day. Namaste.